I'm starting to build a new app and I want to take you on this journey with me. I haven't done any coding for the app yet, however, I have been into ChatGPT and I've started to plan it out. And I think this is a pretty good time to start doing a video. What I'm doing now is I'm hoping to do a series of videos where I cover my method and basically how I'm building it, which is the method of course, and then what I'm building at the same time. So I hope to show you some of the documents and some of the code. Everything will be in GitHub, it will be open source, so you can find everything there by clicking the links in the description. So what is it going to be? Well, the idea is to be an idle RPG. That may not sound that interesting, and I'll be honest, they're not the most fun games. It's not the most fun you could ever have. However, what I really want to do is I want to be doing some testing of some ideas that I have and how I think AI can interact with deterministic systems for gaming. So I want to start with a simple idea, something which has a fairly small scope, something which can be well defined, and as said on the title slide, I want it to be deterministic. How do you get AI to behave deterministically? That's a little bit tricky. However, you can get code to be deterministic. And that's where there's some interesting interplay between using an AI with tool calls in order to call something that's deterministic. So it can call the code on your machine, run the code, and get a deterministic output. So that's something which is possible. I know it can be done. I've done it before myself with a previous app, namely Story Demon, which is something that I released in November of this year. Now, I want to try to take that forward into the next logical step, which is into gaming. And I already have something which is gaming related and uses AI. However, I fear that other project, which is Dungeon GPT, I fear that's a little bit too complex for me right now in order to add AI in such a way that it is able to handle determinism as well as the non-determinism that we get with LLMs. So this is something of an in-between stage where I can basically test out some of my ideas before taking it forward. I think if I can get this project right, then I can go back to Dungeon GPT and get that project right too. So an ideal RPG has a lot of, shall we say, clicking and waiting, but not really much in terms of doing. There isn't really a lot of tactical work. It's not going to have it's going to have a graphical interface, but it's not going to have graphics in the way that you click on a character or an avatar that moves. At least that's not what I'm planning. Things may change as the project progresses. However, at the current moment, that's not really what I'm thinking. So where did I start? I started inside ChatGPT. I gave it the idea, and then we had a bit of a conversation back and forth, and I created a number of documents out the back of that. So here you can see the prompt that I've sent in order to get the project started. I've said, okay, I want this game. I'm thinking of some agentic AI elements. That's all the tool call stuff. And then I said, I want the game to have locations and skills, items, inventory, resources, NPCs, experience points, quests, combat, the usual things that you expect from an RPG. And I think ChatGPT has understood what I was asking and was able to produce a number of documents for me. Here on this next slide, you can see the documents that I created with ChatGPT. When I first get started with any project, I do start with ChatGPT. However, I normally only ask for documents 3 and 4 of this list, which is the spec document, which is the what, and then the plan document, which is the how. And normally that's enough to specify what I want to build and then how I'm going to build it. And normally the plan would have a series of milestones, and then I would ask my AI-powered IDE to just start building the code milestone by milestone. Here I've done many more documents, more than I normally do, and I'm not sure if it's going to work. I'm not sure if it's going to bring any value. I'm going to test this and then see what happens. Do I think it's going to work? Do I think it's going to be successful? Well, I think the project will be successful, but will this process be more successful than my previous methods, my previous attempts to create apps? I'm not so sure. I don't think it's necessarily going to be. I don't think it will be faster necessarily. It may be slightly slower. It may not be much. It may be that the AI has decided that most of these documents aren't really that relevant, and it's going to just mostly stick with the spec and the plan. That's kind of my feeling, but I don't really know. I haven't done any of the coding yet. I wanted to record a video just to say that I'm getting started and basically to kick off the series. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how well the AI relies upon these documents and how much of it does. Let me show you what I did next. So these are the documents. I saved them to my computer locally. I took them into the IDE. And then the first thing I do, of course, is always, please read these documents, please understand them, and let me know if you understand them. And of course, it does. Then I take the spec doc and the plan doc and I ask to reconcile, basically to get rid of any discrepancies in case there are any. Sometimes there's always something. Sometimes they're small. In this case, they were pretty small. And the actual thing in this case was that the plan document was a little bit more detailed than the spec, but otherwise there was nothing that was inconsistent. I also asked the Antigravity-IDE in this case to look at each of the documents and then try to compare them with the spec document again to see if there's any inconsistencies. There's a few documents that I've thrown into the archive, which is all public. The model that I used here was Gemini 3 Pro or Pro Preview, whatever they call it. It seems to be a decent enough model and I haven't really had any problems with it. So I can sort of recommend it. I would suspect that Claude is probably still the best in terms of coding. However, Gemini 3 does seem to be pretty decent. Right, so that's the documents. One thing that I should point out, which you may not entirely see at the moment, is that there is some code created. And this is something that came from ChatGPT. While I was chatting with ChatGPT, it suggested, I can build you some of the code. And I said, okay, sure, spit out some of the code. And it has. I saved that. It's inside my repo locally. However, I haven't pushed that to GitHub. I have pushed the documents to GitHub, but not the code. I will tidy up the code a little bit before I push it out, but it should be sometime soon. As this is the very first video, I may get this video online just after I've updated GitHub. If you're watching this sometime far into the future, it may be that there's all of the code, or at least some version of it. And I'm also hoping to do more videos in the series, and so hopefully that there'll be another follow-up series, a follow-up video to this one by the time you've got around to watching it. So that's what I wanted to say about using the IDE. I've mentioned GitHub. It is public. It is open source. I do have the documents there already at the time of recording, and probably by the time that you come to watch, I suspect that some of the code will also be there. There's not much more that I want to say in this video. I want to try and keep it short compared to my normal videos where I tend to go a bit longer. If you can like, subscribe and comment, that would really help me a lot. It helps to boost the algorithm here on YouTube. And if you're on GitHub, if you could send some stars towards my repos, that would also be really appreciated. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next video.